I will agree. I will agree with Oldman about Dracula. It's campy. It is funny. Dracula is very funny. I mean, how would you not laugh in that movie? It's very funny. Pretty good tacos. And only $1.72. We know Malcolm McDowell's movie as Long Ago Tomorrow. They know it as something like a moon something. It's the English and the Americans. I mean, my goodness gracious. Well, who could kick whose butt in a fight back in the day? Gary Oldman or young Marlon Brando? Right. Marlon Brando would teach him how to act. Sorry. Same with Harvey Keitel. Back in the day, Harvey Keitel would whoop Gary Oldman in it. And hey, let me put it this way. Harvey Keitel, he almost beat up a guy one time in an audition, for real. That's how he got the part and met Martin Scorsese. Of course, Gary Oldman ain't gonna put himself up to that. But they all have worked together to a certain extent. I'm not saying Gary Oldman's the best. He's not Laurence Olivier. But he's dang good. They're all good. I've never met an actor that I didn't think was the most talented actor in the world. Not in my life. They all are. I'm just that way. I'm just that way. I'm sorry. Daniel Lund, freaking the funniest guy. When I go back and watch the dailies, it's better than anything Mel Gibson could have directed. I'm not Mel Gibson, sorry. Mel Brooks. Sorry, Mel Brooks. Not Mel Gibson. That's Australian. I'm talking about Mel Brooks. He's hilarious. Great stage actor, too. I've seen him. I know all types of actors. But what I'm trying to say is that, I don't know. I mean, I can see that the illusion of the ride, you know. But it's work, you know. The actor's trying to get work. So we use these Indiegogos and do these YouTube things because we are actors or vloggers or whatever you want to call it. But they're all acting. I mean, what do you call it, you know? I mean, what would Shakespeare be doing if he had an iPhone? You know what I mean? He'd be like, listen, I know you guys are still at the Globe, dancing around on the stage, doing Hamlet or Midsummers, but I have my iPhone, thus, I vlog, or something like that. Speak the speech, I pray you, trippedly on the tongue, don't saw the air because we can't see it if you move it around too much. He didn't want the actors talking with their hands in front of their faces like that too much because he couldn't really understand them as well, I'm assuming. You know, speak the speech, I pray, you know. Don't saw the air, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But I think he would have the iPhone. I think he'd be on, Shakespeare would be on YouTube. Shakespeare would have his own YouTube channel. It'd be called thebard.com or something like that. Be passing out stickers, little bald head, long hair in the back. Hey man, I got this new play. I'm gonna just go ahead and just do it myself. I don't know. It probably would be. He would do that with other actors too, probably. He would do whatever the Queen would allow him to do back then. And Queen Elizabeth was one that was calling the shots back in the day. Oh, right. Fifth Avenue. Drop off your taco from Torchy's. There's women out there that have a whole lot. They have career jobs, and not all of them are mothers. You may not be a mother, but my mom was a mother, and all she ever did was work. She worked for American Airlines for a very long time. And she would work, and then she would drive all the way back from the Euless area to here, which is Fort Worth. We lived not too far from here. And then she would watch her shows with my stepdad. They were big fans of all kinds of shows. And one day, when I was at Wesleyan, and I was already a theater major, I didn't think I was that serious at the time, and then I realized what I wanted to do, and I walked into my mom's room, and I sat down on the little side chair, and I said, Mom, I want to be an actor, and I began crying. And so my mom responded with, that's all right, Cole. If that's what you want to do, then go do it. And see, I didn't have to yell and scream in saying that. I'm on 5th Avenue right here. So I'm going to drop this off, I guess here. Oh my goodness. Linda's been here before. It's a Texas Methodist area. There's a parking spot over here. Remember this. Thing about this, I told the lady I was just doing a package drop off, so she didn't charge me the $1 for the parking, thank goodness. Literally was there not even 10 seconds, but, or maybe a minute, but she was kind enough to let me through, so it's an ER drop off, it had to be. But anyway, we're headed to some other enchilada thing, so some other enchilada place. This was Texas Health and Harris Methodist. Gonna dress up. There's Fort Worth Magic Etc. A friend of mine worked there for a while. It always takes me here for this one particular restaurant, and the restaurant's not there, so I'm showing you an example of what this thing does. So I gotta switch over to Google Maps is probably what they call it, because there is no enchilada restaurant right here. You see it? Where's the enchilada restaurant? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's not there. It's a construction place, so I gotta switch it over. So, all right, I switched it over from Waze to Google Maps, and it's way over there by the injury law firm. I picked it up there before, or I've been over in the area. It's kind of where those nice restaurants are, right over Forest Park. So, pick that up and drop it off at your doorstep. So now, since we're talking about Gary Oldman, everyone, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I got a story about that. I've told it before. I saw it in Maine. I saw it in Guilford, Maine. I had this little apartment above a pie pantry called, well, the pie pantry was called Aunt Dee Dee's. I lived right above it. They moved out of there. It's a furniture store now, but I lived on the 2nd floor. It's this huge apartment. It was basically, it looked like a restaurant. Only one room heated properly, and this was talking about Maine. And I had Netflix. So I saw Tinker Tailor very late at night, watching it. I didn't realize it when I go back and see it. He doesn't really move in the entire thing. I think he had called upon Alec Guinness, which is one of my favorite actors from Star Wars. You know, the one that goes, Luke, use the Force. Well, Alec Guinness believed in economics and movement. So he felt that the theater actor, especially the theater actor, should not move unless he absolutely has to. And he showed some examples of it in an interview. I saw it a long time ago when I was really serious in acting. Everyone's got to see that too if you're an actor. It's very strange to see. But I can see why he was offered Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because he was playing a kind of a soldier. It was a samurai almost in a way. It was a futuristic. Well, they're not futuristic because Star Wars happened a long time ago. He was playing a Jedi. So
approaching a railroad crossing.
A railroad crossing. No, he was playing a Jedi. So it made sense for him to have economics and movement. You know, the way that he moved was different than, you know, a young Luke Skywalker or whatever. You know, Mark Hamill, for example. And it's interesting to see if you ever watch Star Wars with Alec Guinness. But Alec Guinness has done tremendous amount of work beyond Star Wars. We just know him for Star Wars, but he was a stage actor, legendary. And that's who Gary Oldman was calling upon in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Gary Oldman plays a lot of spies. But I noticed that. I went back and watched him. I was like, man, he's not moving. It's very strange to look at. But there must be a reason for that. You know, that's what I always think about when I see an actor playing a character, and then I think, why would a man be that stiff? Because Gary Oldman's not really. In you know, movies like State of Grace and Sid and Nancy and on all those great ones, he moves around quite a bit. Even Perk Up Your Ears when he started off in cinema. Who knows what he's like on stage? But he's very still. And it's strange to see. It almost doesn't really even look like him. He's up there with Marlon Brando, for sure. And it's strange also to say that, because Marlon Brando is like American Jim that invented this kind of realistic style of behaving, or what do you say, acting truthfully in imaginary circumstances, One thing, Marlon Brando wasn't really ever there in his head, really. He was kind of out there. But what I'm trying to say is that I think it's strange to see that, and also it's very difficult for the actor to play a character like that, where his movements are very calculated and stiff in a way. And Tinker Tailor was kind of like that. It's almost like watching like a painting or something. It's a brilliant film. It's a masterpiece, along with Dracula too. Dracula's campy and funny, but Tinker Tailor is a serious movie. Anyway, I get on my Gary Oldman kicks. You know how I get with the actors, and I'm talking about these things. But I mean, check out Slow Horses though. It's also very funny. It's kind of like this Columbo style. Gotta find this enchilada.
Here I notice that you're like laying in my lap and watching me talk a lot. Like you're laying there going, "Oh, Cole, oh, this is so wonderful to watch you tell these stories." Blah 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 blah.
Figured it out. Just came to me. That's why I want to vlog it. There's a Coca-Cola truck over that way. I figured it out. I know why he was so very still in Tinker Tailor's Soldier Spy, because he was playing, of course, a top secret agent, but a man that could be killed probably at any moment, or a man that had a price on his head probably, and it stiffened him, or maybe he thought he did, because he was playing a person that was high up in espionage and the Majesty Service kind of thing. Couldn't imagine the James Bond being that stiff, though. I don't think it would work, because the James Bond style. But in that film, it was scary real. Oh, they got a Greek house here, too. It makes you think, like, where vlogging came about. Like, why it's there. They use sound, and they use visual. Most all of them. I mean, some, they just do a vlog about ducks. And some do a vlog about everything. Don't they? But I just thought that was interesting. There's enchilada oles. Or is it ole? That's how I spell old, though. O-L-E. It's actually ole. But I would spell O-L-E. Old, because that's the old English of how you say old. O-L-E. I do mean that none of them are compared to Harmony Korine, in my opinion. When it comes to filmmakers, you get these certain filmmakers, man, they're just like badass, really, really good filmmakers. You see something like Gummo or any of his work, dude. He puts a lot of filmmakers to shame. But see, the actors, and this is what I don't like about a lot of the actors, they know how to be human. They know the humanity aspect of it, because that's where they live. They live in humanity, But they don't know how to make a race or it. You know what I mean? They don't know how to do that. How would you do that, Or 8.5, Those are made by filmmakers. But hey, listen, Orson Welles, nevertheless, Citizen Kane, he was an actor. I don't know, maybe they're just pretty much the same. Maybe it's just the type of filmmakers, they just like to think and sit behind the camera. They're more like directors. I guess what separates maybe the actor from the director is once they have the show prepared, it's out of the director's hands and they give it over to the actor. But what's also interesting, going all the way back to Shakespeare, was Shakespeare did act. He was the ghost in Hamlet, which is a great role for him. The casting, I can see it, I can't even think of the actor's name that they would have casted for Hamlet, what they would use at the time. It'll come to me eventually. The great actor that probably played Hamlet. You got to see Shakespeare in Love to really get all those names down. But when they called, for the ghost Hamlet stands with his little quill and his pen. Oh, excuse me, I'll be playing the ghost. And then it's just the ghost. All the actors are... He wrote the thing, you know? He's got to be in it, too. And he looks back. It's just the ghost. What's wrong with that? Just pretend like I'm not there. This would be a great hat for Lewis, the lawnmower man, and Grace. Something like this. Maybe something with a little braid on it. A little buckle or something. A little rattlesnake tassel. Just like Tinker Tailor Spy, you get into these spy thrillers, or they call spy fiction, and it gets in your head a little bit, you know, because it works in every altitude, you know, or what's the right vernacular? That should be the name of the show. What's the right vernacular, Linda? The right vernacular. I'm gonna say altitude. It works anywhere. It works up, down, to the side, to the left. You know, in espionage, you cannot really figure it out ever, you know? Especially like Tinker Tailor, but there's really good ones. This one is probably gonna be like a mystery thriller, but I think it's more thriller fiction, as they say, or thriller, spy thriller. And The Slow Horses is coming from Slough House, which is a book series. It's basically like a fictional series based upon these special intelligence and military intelligence for Britain. Mark Herron, I'm just guessing, I'll have to go back and look at it. But he's basically a spy thriller writer for the UK. It's a big show in the UK right now. I've heard some rumors about the UK that my dad had sent me. I'm not going to really talk about it, but... Ooh, there's a cat. Always keep your eye on the cat. You're going to get a hold of the Grace script, you actors. Because the cat is part of... There is a moment I just added today on the Grace werewolf film where the werewolf hisses. And the last shot... The last shot of the film is the cat. Now remember, the werewolf is simply one thing and one thing only. And don't forget it. The shapeshifter. A werewolf is a shapeshifter. It goes right into the Native American mythology. Almost all the cultures have it. And of course in England, they call it the werewolf. In the Navajo, they have a name. I have to go back and look. The Navajo language is very difficult. It's very secretive. It's one of the reasons why America is powerful, because we can access these languages very well and very quick. And every tribe had its own tongue. So one of my teachers has done plenty of Navajo or Native American Navajo, Native American research from when we were in high school in the 90s. So he knows a lot about Navajo. But the reason why the Navajo language is so precious and so important is because they can use it to communicate. And it's very hard to trace exactly what they say, even on the radio. The Navajos are great, but a lot of them stick to the same messages. My ancestry is Apache, is what I've been told. I don't know for sure, because I don't think I'm allowed to know. My dad might know, but my grandma once said Cherokee, and then when she said Apache, but nevertheless, it falls into what's known as Navajo, I believe. Johnny Depp would know. He's an expert on the matter. I've been in the same room as he. But regardless, what I'm trying to say is that language is very important in any type of espionage, especially spy thrillers. That's the Dickies building right there. It looks over all of that area, which is pretty much Amon Carter kind of area where the museums are. But what I mean is that they all probably have secret languages and stuff. We know the English speak English, or they speak of England, or they speak English. There we go. How about that for the English majors? And the Navajo espionage...
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
...would be, their own thing. That brings me to another series that I haven't been able to watch, that I want to watch. And that's called Reservation Dogs. which looks really good. Looks even better. It looks really cool. Looks better than a lot of the other series and stuff. But it deals with just their culture. But, you know, I mean, espionage is lots of fun for Englanders to write about. And another fact about me is my grandfather, who I think had Apache heritage, I don't know for sure, but I'd like to find out. He went over to England. He lived in England. I think it was his father. So it was my grandfather's father. So it'd be my great-grandfather. Look at that flag. And he went over to England to trade in spice. So he, you know, traveled to England as a Native American, if you can imagine that, just to sell in spice, because it was good business for the Englanders. You know, they had this full-on Native American buying spice from them. They loved it and did well. And then he came back to America and came to Texas. And the last name, of course, I don't know if I've ever seen it or I've ever said it before. I probably have, but you'd have to watch over 1,500 of my vlogs to probably figure it out. I would have to do the same. I'm not going to release that name, but it is on a tribal scroll. So in actuality, the government actually owes probably me money if that name is on the tribal scroll, because that name is on my mother's maiden name. I think that's legally, I go to school for free. But we had paid some of the schools some money. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We never attempted, my sister and I, we did not attempt to get the free scholarship, because we were probably told wrong, and we were told that we didn't have enough of the actual blood of Native American in us. But the actuality is that the name had to be on a tribal scroll, and you'd have to turn in the name and then show the relationship of that name, whether it be your mother, and that name's on a tribal scroll, and that would have to be presented. So that's probably some steps I'm going to have to take down the line. Once that's presented to the United States government, then those student loans would be dismissed, because I was supposed to go to school probably most likely for free because of that name that my mother shared as her maiden name. I'm pretty sure they go by the name. That's what I was told. I read it somewhere. They went by the tribal scroll. But anyway, back to espionage and the Englanders. Language is everything in espionage. And the reason we did so well in many wars is because we could use the Navajo language to communicate. Like when we were fighting against... Woo! Ways. When we were fighting against Japan back in the day in World War II, we used what was called wind talkers. Good old Nicolas Cage would know everything about it. So they used the Navajo language to speak over the radios, so the Japanese would not even know what they were talking about, because they understood English, but they didn't understand Navajo. Neither do the Englanders. I think there should be more shows done about the Navajo, but also I think they should be done in the Navajo language. At least the language they decide upon, because it's different between tribes. Many of the cultures have this issue. And when you're dealing with like a spy thriller, they're going to use a lot of vernacular. That's what I noticed when I first opened Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, was the vernacular. The first, right off the sprinting gate, whenever the guy's in the airport looking for, and that's actually a training exercise, how it opens. The guy makes the wrong decision on a training exercise, and that's how he gets put into Slow Horses, which is Gary Oldman's department, because he didn't listen right. But regardless, the vernacular starts off with all this spy talk. You just got to look at it. If you looked at it on paper, you'd really, or if you put it on subtitles, you see all this spy talk, you know, target, you know, all this stuff, you know, they're talking about, you know, you have to know all that vernacular too. And you learn that from the spy fiction, or as they say, spy thrillers. Usually they're thrillers. Tinker Tailor has a little bit of it, but you can get a little crazy with it, like James Bond and things like that. It can get a little too fictiony. Check it out, though. I watched a little bit of it, and that's what I noticed is the vernacular. But that brought me through all the language of the Navajo and things like that, because, you know, during the time of the West, and we got a good movie coming out called Killers of the Flower Moon, and the times of the West and the times, older times, they still speak this language. And you don't really hear it a whole lot in Westerns and movies. You hear a little bit of it, what they understand. But nor have we ever, I mean, I don't think we have ever once had an entire Western just done in the Navajo language, where we had to read the subtitles to figure out what the crap they're talking about. It's just an idea to throw out there. I've never thought about that. But one thing I do want to include in Grace, now that I'm talking and brainstorming, one thing I want to include is possibly bringing in some of that Native American language. I would not be the expert on it. So right now it's all English. But it would be interesting to do. And I would need probably a person as a consultant that would understand the Navajo language. You know, probably someone that maybe speak it for maybe certain scenes or something, you know, because of the heritage of Grace Lippan's character. Now, Lipan is an actual Apache name, but it's spelled Lipan. I use 2 P's in the movie.